join me on this program this evening. Welcome.
Oh, thanks, Charlie.
So tell me where you think the investigation is now.
Well, I think we're starting to make some progress, although I would remind people that with 4 dead Americans, these terrorists are still on the run. There has been nobody brought to justice. There's been nobody captured or killed. And we're worried about the hundreds of embassies and consulates, thousands of people overseas. But we did hear, as you pointed out, a lot of new information, firsthand information, not from politicos, but from people who are actually there, firsthand witnesses. 3, I think, very credible witnesses with more than 70 years of public service who gave us their account of what happened on that fateful day on 9/11.
Do you believe there was a cover-up?
I think there are a lot of things that the administration has not yet accounted for. I think part of it was covered up. I mean, except for the United States Congress, this administration would lead you to believe that there was some video gone awry and that a protest happened, and that's what caused this attack. That never happened. We've demonstrated it. We introduced a memo that we just recently found that was issued on the day after the attack from the State Department to senior State Department personnel saying it was Ansar al-Sharia with Islamic ties. They are the ones that were responsible for that. In fact, we told the Libyan ambassador that. So I think the administration has covered up a lot of these facts and why we're continuing to probe.
But they changed their own acknowledgement of what happened after the events and after the testimony by Secretary Rice. Do you believe they continue to cover up?
Well, 4.5 months after the attack, Secretary Clinton came before the United States Congress and testified in both the House and the Senate, and she said that the security decisions weren't made by her, but that the security decisions were made by the people on the ground. Yet we had the regional security officer, who was the chief security person in Libya, said, no, I wasn't able to make those recommendations. I mean, he made the recommendations, but they weren't implemented. It just begs more questions. And then we were also told that the military did everything they could, yet we heard testimony, firsthand testimony, that we had 4 special forces ready to go in Tripoli to go to Benghazi, and they were told to stand down. So, again, Charlie, I think there are a lot of legitimate questions. Whether or not every one of those is a cover-up remains to be seen. But progress that the Congress is making, new information, and a concurrence from the Democrats. We need more hearings, more documents, and more people talking about what happened.
Okay, you went to Libya and to Benghazi to talk to Gregory Hicks. Part of this story.
I went to Tripoli, not to Benghazi, just to be clear. Yeah,
to the capital of Libya.
Yes.
What happened there, and the testimony, and the fact that the State Department, which has a normal procedure for one of its officials to be there and to be involved in these hearings, was not allowed to be in the room?
Well, this is very troubling, Charlie. I went there about 3.5 weeks after the attack. I went to Tripoli. We invited the Democrats to come with us, despite what the State Department has said since, or at least a person who used to be at the State Department. Democrats were invited to go, but they chose not to go. It was short notice, but they chose not to go. But the State Department sent a minder or a babysitter, whatever you want to call it, which is somewhat unprecedented. And we heard testimony from the chief of mission that he was told that the 3 people within the State Department there on the ground in Libya were not to meet with me individually. And I tell you, as a member of Congress on the Oversight Committee, he testified, Gregory Hicks, as a 22-year veteran, having had a number of congressional delegations come, that had never, ever happened before. And he also testified that when we went into a secure classification meeting, and that minder from the State Department was not able to attend because he didn't have the proper security clearances, that the chief of staff to Hillary Clinton herself called and chastised this person. That's without precedent, and I've talked to a lot of people on both sides of the aisle. That's just not right. That deserves a little bit more. I felt there was a suppression of information while I was there, but we're going to have to dive deeper into this. That's not the way you treat the United States Congress.
Will you ask Cheryl Mills to come and testify?
You know, it's hard to say who. I would welcome everybody. I wish the Accountability Review Board, which supposedly did this review, would come testify to us or at least meet with us informally. We've asked them multiple times to do that. They've always denied it. We are 25,000 documents in 8 tranches that they won't let us have. They've said you can come look at an in-camera review, which again means State Department gets to watch over your shoulder. Even unclassified information, Charlie, they won't allow us. They won't let the Congress have. That's just not the American way.
So why do you think they're doing it if, in fact, they are doing it?
Well, it sends up a lot of flashing red lights, right? If there's nothing wrong, if you want openness and transparency, if you want to do what the President told the American people repeatedly he was going to do, that is release new information as they gain it, then why don't they do that? They won't even release the unclassified information. They won't allow us to talk to the people we want to talk to. They have not been made available to the Congress, and so it's been a long, arduous process. This should have been done and dealt with a long time ago, but it continues on.
But again, I ask, what do you think their motive is?
I don't know, because I don't know what the truth is. And as my friend and colleague Trey Gowdy, the congressman from South Carolina, likes to say, there is no statute of limitations on the truth. And again, we've got about a half dozen things that just don't appear to be true, and we're going to continue to pursue those until we know the truth.
Okay, let's just list the things that you think do not appear to be true.
Well, first and foremost is that time leading up to 9/11. The Secretary of State insists that the security decisions were made by those on the ground. That's not true. The physical facilities were not up to the minimum standards. You remember after the bombings in Beirut, we had a big congressional study done. I was pretty young at the time, but there were the development of what's called the Inman standards, the minimum standards by which these physical facilities should be built. Those were bypassed. By law, the only person that can sign off on those standards is the Secretary of State. Again, begs the question of how that happened. Once the attack started to happen, why is it that the military could not get there until almost 24 hours after the attack? You can get on a Delta flight here at the Dulles Airport outside Washington, D.C. and fly there faster than our military was able to get there. We heard testimony that the military had been told to stand down, yet we were told that the very senior people in the military said, oh no, we did everything we could to get there. It just physically wasn't possible. Well, we have troops and assets and planes that are very close proximity, planes that fly at supersonic speeds, so that still isn't a question. And then Secretary Rice went before the American people and the public for weeks. This administration said that it was due to a video. That was never true at any time. How did those talking points change? Who changed them? And why did they perpetuate those lies on the American people? That's the starting list, Charlie.
Okay, did Secretary Rice say that she thought it was because of this video or that fact that it was unclear at this time and they were investigating to make a determination about that?
Well, again, we uncovered a document that hadn't been seen before yesterday where the senior people within the Department of State had said clearly, they told the Libyans that it was Ansar al-Sharia, which is ties to al-Qaeda. There's a reason why on Face the Nation, the president of Libya went to Benghazi. He told, in that interview on Face the Nation, he told the American people and the world that he thought it had to do with these Islamic, these terrorists. And yet Susan Rice went and undercut him. And that was a reason why the FBI, think about this, Charlie, the FBI couldn't get to that crime scene for nearly 3 weeks. Imagine if that had happened in Boston. Imagine if we said, oh, well, the FBI can't get there. It's going to be a couple weeks. That's just intolerable. The reason is that the testimony we heard from the chief of mission, our person on the ground in Libya, said it's because the Libyans felt that we had lied. And he testified, Mr. Hicks, that his jaw hit the ground, that it was the most embarrassing moment he had ever had in his life.
You have said that